A short time later, I was visiting with Pastor Quisol and inquired further about this strange boy. He explained that the child's father was an old friend who had served with him in the United States Navy. Mr. Closa had told the minister that in the past year his son had mysteriously disappeared and reappeared about 100 times. He said Cornelio would be sitting in the dining room with the family and simply dissolve into thin air without a window or a door moving. Or he would be sitting in the front room with his brothers and sisters playing, and suddenly the children would cry, "Cornelio is gone." He could not be found in the house or on the street. The Reverend Reuben Candelaria, then superintendent for the Manila district of the Methodist Church, made an appointment with the Closa family for us to visit them. It was a day of rejoicing. They gave us a fine example of Filipino hospitality, and after refreshments, we settled down to talk to Cornelio about his strange disappearances. Cornelio told us that about a year before this time, he had been walking across a nearby field on his way home from school. He saw a girl about his own size. She wore a white dress and was very pretty, with beautiful long flowing hair around her shoulders. As she approached him, she smiled and said, "Please go for a walk with me." Cornelio naturally consented. Then, when the beautiful girl touched him, to his amazement, both of them became invisible. They could walk for many hours, even all night and all day, and not become weary. And when she would embrace him again, he would return to his normal body. Cornelio would vanish from many places. Sometimes he would disappear from the schoolroom and might reappear in the same spot a few hours later. This so upset the teacher and pupils that the principal had Cornelio dismissed from the school. He would vanish from his home, sometimes in the evenings, when the whole family was sitting together behind locked doors. On one occasion, he was playing with the other children in the living room. It was in the evening, and the doors and windows of the house were already locked. The gate in the front yard was locked too. The children suddenly cried out, "Cornelio is gone." Everyone looked around the room and in the rest of the house. They unlocked the doors and looked in the yard and down the street, but could not find him. 2 nights later, while the family was sitting in the living room, at about the same hour he had disappeared, he reappeared upstairs. When the parents heard someone upstairs, they asked, "Who is that?" Cornelio answered, "It is I. I am now going to bed." The entire family became frantic. Not only were they afraid of what had happened to their little son, but they were afraid to tell the police. They did not want their names in the newspapers, nor did they want multitudes of curiosity seekers crowding around their house to see the strange thing that was happening. I asked Cornelio if he ever felt the body of this little girl. He said yes, she was always cold and never felt warm. I questioned him further if she only enticed him in a sweet way or if she was demanding. He looked at me with a kind of frightened look and said she would grab him and become very angry, demanding that he obeyed her every wish. Then I asked him where they would go. He said they went to the movie theaters, and as no one could see them, they would walk right in without paying. They also sometimes went to restaurants, and he said they had visited the Philippines International Fair being held in the Luneta, but mostly they loved to travel through the woods and take long walks in the country. Mr. Closa, a United States Navy man with a record of 19 years, would verify Cornelio's story. When he would reappear and tell his family about going to a certain cinema, the father would rush down and see if his story was correct. It was always true. I asked Cornelio what this little girl thought of his parents, and he said she did not like them because they were against his disappearing. I asked him if anyone else had seen the girl. He said that he was the only one who could see her and that she was standing near him most of the time. At this point, I drew my chair close to Cornelio and said, "When you looked directly at the face of this creature, could you not see that she was not a girl at all?" He looked surprised because I was the first person who had ever questioned this. He answered, "You are right. She is not really a girl at all." I continued, "When you looked really close into this creature's face, could you not tell that it wasn't even young?" Again, he looked surprised and said, "Yes, she was not young at all." Then I said, "This was an evil spirit to torment and ruin your life. Finally, it would have destroyed your soul in hell." The Disappearing Boy, a testimony by Sumrall. One of the strangest encounters in my travels in more than 100 countries of the world took place at Knox Memorial Methodist Church in Manila, the oldest Protestant church in the Philippines. I was conducting a 3-night salvation and healing revival. In the prayer line one night stood a Methodist pastor, Reverend Roman Quisol, with a youth about 12 years old and his parents. When I approached them for prayer, the pastor said that the boy, Cornelio Closa Jr., was a bad boy in that he disappeared. I thought he meant the boy ran away, so I suggested to the parents that a good paddling might remedy the matter. The pastor looked bewildered. "Brother Sumrall, you do not understand," he said. "This boy disappears into thin air and might disappear right now from my hands." Suddenly, I felt a cold chill ripple over my whole being. By looking directly into the boy's eyes, I could see that he was demon-possessed. I laid my hands upon him and asked God to break the circuit of evil power so that this demon spirit would not be able to re-enter the boy. I prayed for his salvation and for his distressed Roman Catholic parents. The agony of the prayer exhausted me physically, but I knew that God had answered with deliverance. From that moment, Cornelio never disappeared again. Cornelio said, "Yes, many times she asked me to go away and never return, but I was afraid to give consent." Then with a radiant smile, he added, "I never thought I could be free, and now I am happy to be delivered. I used to see her all the time, even before she used to touch me and ask me to go away with her. The night you prayed for me, she was standing at the church door begging me to come to her. But I have not seen her since you prayed for me, and I am glad that God has set me free." It has now been several years since Cornelio was delivered. Today, he is a normal young man. Through this experience, many of his family came to know Jesus Christ as Lord and Savior. I realize that to share an incident as incredible as this is to invite many skeptics to doubt. I would find it difficult to believe myself had I not been there and thoroughly authenticated the facts from several reliable sources. Rev. H.A. Baker of Formosa, veteran missionary to China and author of several books, became intensely interested in this miracle. He had dealt with demon power for many years in the Orient. When Reverend Baker was traveling from the United States to Formosa, he stopped in the Philippines for a couple of days in order to interview this young man. In company with the Methodist bishop, he spent 2 days thoroughly investigating the veracity of this story. Mr. Baker wrote, "There is no question in my mind as to the reality of this affair, as you have recorded it. To the thinking mind, this is a wonderful revelation of the realities of the invisible world, and this healing shows the reality of miracles, as in Bible days. Facts are facts, truth established by sufficient evidence." Cornelio Close was able by spirit power to pass into a state of conscious invisibility, move about independent of material matter, and again return to normal condition.